Silence was never the ending, my friends. It was the moment the stage went dark before the real act began. You see, folks, silence shook them. It caught them off guard. They expected drama, they expected begging, they expected tears and explanations. But you gave them nothing, and that nothing already created fear inside them. But listen carefully. The silence was only the warning shot. What comes after is the move that changes everything. It's not just a reaction, it's not some petty game. It is a shift so powerful that it flips rejection into regret and turns indifference into obsession. This move after silence, it is your survival, your weapon, your crown. Without it, silence is just emptiness. With it, silence becomes the setup for the most shocking comeback they'll ever witness. Think about it like this. When a storm passes through, the silence after feels strange, almost heavy. People think it's over. They think the sky is done. But then, without warning, another strike of lightning tears the heavens open. That's the move after silence. They thought you were finished, but you were only gathering strength. And now your next step is the flash that blinds them, the thunder that shakes their pride. My friends, this isn't about silence alone. It's about who you become when the silence is broken. Not with words, not with weakness, but with presence so powerful that it haunts them day and night. They will try to lie to themselves. They will say they don't care. They will pretend they've moved on. They might even laugh in front of others. But the mind doesn't lie in the dark of the night. Behind those closed doors, when it's quiet and no one is watching, the trick you used after silence starts eating them alive. They wonder why you didn't return the way they expected. They wonder how you're still standing so calm, so collected. They wonder what changed, and that mystery is poison to their ego. Folks, the move after silence is not begging for attention. It is taking it without asking. I need you to understand how deep this goes. Most people think they need to chase after rejection. They think they need to explain themselves, prove themselves, show their worth. That is the biggest lie you've been sold. The truth is, worth is never proven by chasing. Worth is revealed by what you do after silence. That's why this trick matters so much. It's not just about relationships, it's about life. It's about walking through rejection like a soldier through fire, calm and steady, knowing that on the other side you are untouchable. And that energy, that is what makes people who once dismissed you now lose sleep over you. My friends, hold on to this truth. Silence planted the seed, but this move is the water that makes it grow. This is how you rise from being forgotten to unforgettable. This is how you stop being an option and become the obsession. And it doesn't matter how many times they rejected you, how many times they cheated, how many times they overlooked you. What matters is the moment you decide that silence was not your ending, but your beginning. And from that point on, you are no longer playing their game. They are playing yours. So here's where I want you to pause, my friends. Don't just listen to these words like it's another video playing in the background. Let it cut through you. Let it wake you up. You've been through rejection, betrayal, nights of doubt, but you're still standing. That silence you gave wasn't weakness. It was proof that you've got a strength most people can't even imagine. And now this move? This is the fire that makes you impossible to forget. Stay calm, yes. Stay steady, yes. But also stand taller than you ever have before. You don't need their validation, you don't need their apology, and you certainly don't need to chase. You hold something much more powerful. You hold the ability to walk away and become untouchable. That's survival. That's control. That's how you win without lifting a finger. Now, I want you to prove to yourself that you believe it. Don't just think it, say it, write it, put it in the comments like you're carving it in stone. I am untouchable. Not tomorrow, not later. Do it now. Because when you type those words, you're not just talking to me, you're talking to yourself. You're declaring to the world that rejection didn't kill you, it forged you. And if this message hit you, if it stirred something inside, don't just scroll on like nothing happened. Press that like button, subscribe, stay with me, because this is not just another story, this is your turning point. And the story we're about to walk into, it's going to flip everything upside down. Number 1, when they expect weakness, you give them power. They expected you to break. That's the truth of it, my friends. When you went silent, they didn't think you'd last. They thought the silence was temporary, a little pause before you returned with open hands, with apologies, with desperate explanations about why they should let you back in. Because that's what people who reject you count on. They count on your weakness. They believe the hurt they caused will force you to crawl back just to make the pain stop. But here's where you flip the script. Instead of crawling, instead of crumbling, you did the one thing their ego could never prepare for. You stood in calm strength. And that's why this works. Carl Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You need to hear this. The moment they saw you not break, not bend, but transform into something calmer, stronger, more controlled, that was the reaction they never saw coming. Their expectation was weakness, but your response was power. That contrast is the psychological blow that makes them spiral, because it doesn't fit into the story they wrote about you in their head. Think of it like a battlefield. One side charges forward, expecting the enemy to retreat in fear. But instead, the enemy stands still, calm, unshaken, holding the line. Suddenly, the one charging loses all their confidence. Because what do you do when the person you thought would run doesn't move an inch? That's what you created in them. That's why they're restless now. They don't understand why you're not back in their arms, why you're not sending long texts, why you're not doing exactly what they predicted. And when the human mind faces something it can't predict, it becomes obsessed with finding answers. You might be asking yourself, but why is this so difficult? Why does it feel like the hardest thing in the world to show strength when all I want is to be heard, to be understood? Because the heart wants connection, but Stoicism teaches us that power is not in chasing what we can't control, it's in mastering ourselves. When you choose calm strength over desperation, you're not only proving something to them, you're proving something to yourself. You're learning that you can survive rejection, you can survive betrayal, you can survive being misunderstood. And survival, my friends, is the root of power. Here's the paradox. The very moment you stop trying to convince them of your worth is the moment they start questioning their own judgment. They sit there thinking, wait, why aren't they chasing me? Why aren't they begging? Did I underestimate them? Did I lose something rare? That reversal eats them alive. It's no longer about you seeking them. It's about them seeking the validation they thought was guaranteed. And the more they don't get it, the more their ego cracks. Think of it like a mirror. Before, you were showing them their power. You reflected their control back to them. Now, after silence, you're reflecting their weakness instead, and they can't stand what they see. This is why Jung taught that what we deny in ourselves comes back as fate. They denied your worth. They denied your strength. And now fate is forcing them to confront it in your calm presence. Let me be real with you. It won't be easy. There will be nights you'll want to reach out, mornings where you'll want to explain yourself, moments where you'll want to fill the silence with words. But remember, every time you resist, every time you choose calm over chaos, you tighten the hold this trick has on them. You're not playing games, you're mastering the art of restraint. And restraint, in the language of psychology, is the highest form of power. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to shout. You don't need to post 100 things online. You don't need to prove anything. Your calm strength is louder than all the noise in the world. It's the oak tree, standing tall while storms rip through the land. It bends, maybe, but it does not break. And one day, those who thought it would fall realize it has only grown stronger. That's you, the oak, the one they can't uproot no matter how hard they tried. So when their mind races at night, when they wonder why you didn't come back the way they thought, when they feel the sting of regret creep into their chest, that's the proof that this trick is working. They expected weakness. You gave them power. And nothing messes with the human ego more than being wrong about someone they thought they controlled. Now listen closely. Don't let anyone tell you that calm strength is nothing. Don't let anyone convince you that you're doing too little. No, my friends, you are doing the most powerful thing possible. You are refusing to play their game. You're standing on your own terms, and that is exactly what keeps them coming back. Because deep down, every human craves what they cannot control, and you've just become that. So I'll leave you with this. Hold steady, hold calm, hold strong, because your strength in this moment is rewriting the story of how they see you. They thought you were weak, but now they're starting to realize you were the strongest one in the room all along. And that realization, once it sinks in, becomes obsession. Write it right now in the comments. I choose power. Don't hesitate, don't put it off. Declare it, because the moment you do, you're no longer just surviving rejection, you're rising above it. Say it out loud, type it down, claim it. Number 2. The glow-up weapon, quiet transformation. My friends, let's talk about the second step. This is where the silence begins to bloom into something far more powerful, because the silence itself is not the end game, it's the soil. What grows out of it, what rises from that stillness, is your quiet transformation. This is what I call the glow-up weapon. And it's a weapon because it doesn't just change you, it disarms them. It forces them to face a version of you they never thought existed. Now, listen carefully. Most people think transformation means shouting from the rooftops, "Look at me, I've changed, I'm better, I'm stronger." But true transformation doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need applause. Like Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. A quiet glow-up comes from the heart, from the deep work you've done in the silence. And because of that, it speaks louder than anything you could ever post or say. Think of it like this. Imagine someone disappears into the woods for a season. The last time you saw them, they looked tired, broken, worn out. Then, one day, they walk back into the village, and they are unrecognizable. Their posture is straight, their eyes are sharp, their presence commands the room. No words are needed because the transformation is written all over them. That's you. That's the power of the glow-up weapon. They expected you to shrink. Instead, you expanded. They expected you to collapse. Instead, you rebuilt yourself into something stronger, sharper, calmer. And here's the thing, folks. This glow-up is not just physical. Sure, maybe you take better care of your body, your style, your energy, but the real shift, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. You begin to carry yourself differently. You're no longer begging to be seen. You're letting your presence be felt. And presence is something people can't ignore. They might scroll past your posts. They might pretend not to notice, but their subconscious does. The little changes, the subtle confidence, the way you no longer carry desperation that lingers with them like a shadow they can't shake. Now let me ask you this. Why does transformation feel so threatening to someone who rejected you? Because it proves one thing they can't handle, that they were wrong about you. They told themselves lies to justify losing you. Lies like, they'll never change. They'll always need me. They can't survive without me. And then, boom, you return from silence, not begging, not broken, but glowing in a way they can't explain. That quiet transformation destroys the lies they built. And when lies collapse, obsession begins. It's difficult though, isn't it? Because sometimes, in the silence, you feel like nothing's happening. You look in the mirror and wonder if they'll even notice. You ask yourself, what if they don't care? What if this glow-up doesn't matter? That's your fear speaking, not your truth. Remember this, transformation is never about them. It's about you. It's about taking back your own power, your own worth, your own sense of identity. When you transform quietly, you're not proving anything to them. You're proving everything to yourself. And that self-proof, my friends, is magnetic. People can sense it. They can feel it in the way you breathe, the way you walk, the way you speak. Let me give you a metaphor. The caterpillar doesn't send updates from the cocoon. It doesn't post pictures of the process. It goes silent, it goes still, and then one day it emerges as a butterfly. No announcement needed. That's the glow-up weapon. Silence didn't break you. It built your wings. And when they see you again, whether in person or online, or even just through the energy that ripples out of you, they realize they never knew what you were capable of. That realization is not gentle. It's a knife in their ego, because the one they rejected is now out of reach. Carl Jung also said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That's the essence of this stage. You choose to become someone new, and that choice makes them spiral, because they wanted you trapped in the old version of yourself, the one who needed them. But now you've outgrown that skin, and every glimpse they get of your transformation reminds them of the fact that they lost not just who you were, but also who you are becoming. And that loss is unbearable. But here's the catch. Don't flaunt it. Don't shove it in their face. Don't chase their validation. True power doesn't advertise itself. It simply exists. Let them notice. Let them hear whispers. Let them stumble across a picture or a moment where you look unshakable. The more quiet the glow-up, the louder it rings in their mind. Remember, obsession is not born from what's obvious. It's born from what's mysterious, from what they can't fully grasp. So hold your ground. Let your glow-up unfold naturally. Every time you invest in yourself, your body, your mind, your peace, you're sharpening the weapon. And when they catch even a glimpse of it, they won't be able to stop replaying it in their head. How did they change? Why are they different? How did they grow without me? Those questions will eat at them day and night. And those questions are the chains of obsession tightening around their pride. My friends, I want you to understand how powerful this is. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to chase. Your quiet transformation is the storm that wrecks their certainty. You are the oak that grew taller while they thought you'd crumble. You are the butterfly they never thought would take flight. And the best part? This transformation is yours forever. It doesn't fade when they come back. It doesn't vanish if they finally regret. It stays with you because it was never for them. It was always for you. So the next time you doubt, the next time you feel like nothing's happening, remember this: every step forward, every piece of growth, every quiet investment in yourself is being noticed. Maybe not openly, maybe not with words, but in the silence of their own thoughts they're seeing it, and it's driving them insane. Write this in the comments to lock it into your spirit. Silence built me. Say it, type it, claim it, because when you know silence built you, you'll never again fear rejection. You'll thank it for giving you the fire to transform. Number 3, scarcity as the new reality. My friends, let me tell you something straight. People don't value what is always in front of them. They don't crave what is easy, and they don't cherish what is free. The human mind is wired for scarcity. When something is rare, when it's hard to reach, when it feels like it could be gone forever, that's when it becomes priceless. And this is where your silence transforms again. Because after the glow-up, after you've rebuilt yourself, you don't return to the old ways of being too available. No, you create a new reality where your energy, your presence, your attention are scarce. And scarcity, my friends, is the fuel that turns curiosity into obsession. Think about it. Why do people chase gold, diamonds, rare art, or treasures buried in the ground? It's not because they are the most useful things in the world. It's because they're scarce. Not everyone can have them. And in that scarcity lies power. The same is true for your energy. Before, they may have had it in abundance. You texted too much, you explained too much, you tried too hard to prove yourself. They got used to overdosing on you. And like anything too abundant, they devalued it. They thought, this will always be here. And so they treated you like an option. But now, after silence, you've flipped the script. Your presence is no longer guaranteed. Your attention is no longer free. You show up less, you reveal less, you give less. And suddenly, they panic. Because the very thing they once took for granted now feels like something they could lose forever. Scarcity makes them see what they ignored before. It magnifies your value. Carl Jung once said, "Man cannot stand a meaningless life." And let me add to that, man cannot stand a meaningless loss either. When you were abundant, losing you meant nothing to them. But when you become scarce, when you're rare, when your absence is heavier than your presence ever was, the loss becomes unbearable. It gnaws at them. It keeps them up at night. They ask themselves questions they never asked before. Why can't I reach them anymore? Why aren't they chasing me? Why does it feel like their energy is slipping away from me? That's the power of scarcity. It forces them to confront the hole you left behind. Now let me give you a picture. Imagine water in a desert. When there's a river flowing endlessly, people drink without thinking. They waste it, spill it, take it for granted. But if the desert dries up and water becomes scarce, even a single drop is cherished. Even a glimpse of it becomes life or death. That's the shift you've created in them. You are no longer the river they wasted. You are the well they can't find again. And once the human heart tastes scarcity, it starts to obsess. You might be wondering, but how do I make myself scarce without being fake, without playing childish games? The answer is simple: by living. By investing in yourself, by building your world, by choosing carefully where your energy goes. You don't force scarcity, you embody it. You stop explaining yourself, you stop overgiving, you stop showing up where you're not valued. And in that quiet withdrawal, your worth skyrockets. You don't need to scream, "I'm rare." Your actions prove it. Here's the psychological truth, my friends. Scarcity creates demand. It's one of the oldest principles in human behavior. People chase what they can't easily have, not what's handed to them on a silver platter. That's why luxury brands survive. That's why forbidden love consumes the mind. That's why silence plus transformation creates the perfect storm. You are no longer easy to access. You are no longer free for the taking. And that shift flips everything. But let me also warn you, it won't be easy. There will be moments you'll want to reach out, to fill the silence again, to make yourself seen. That's the old you talking, the version that was desperate for validation. The new you knows this: scarcity is strength. The less you give, the more they crave. The more you pull back, the more they lean forward. This is not cruelty. It is balance. You're teaching them that your energy has value, that your attention is sacred, and that if they want it, they'll have to treat it with respect. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's exactly what's happening here. Your scarcity forces them to face what was unconscious before, the truth that losing you was not fate, it was their choice, and now they must live with that choice day after day, while you become rarer, stronger, more untouchable. Think of yourself like the sun. When it's shining every day, people complain about the heat. They take the light for granted. But when clouds cover it, when the days grow dark, people long for the warmth again. They realize how much they depended on it, how much it meant to them, how much they miss it. You are that sun, my friends. Scarcity is the eclipse that reminds them of your value. And once they realize it, they'll never look at you the same again. So hold your ground. Don't give yourself away to those who don't honor your worth. Don't run back to people who only valued you when you were abundant. Stand tall in your scarcity, because when they see it, when they feel it, when they realize they can't touch you the way they used to, that's when the obsession truly begins. And let me leave you with this. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You don't need to explain. All you need to do is live, to grow, to become scarce in the right places, and your very absence will become the loudest presence in their life. Write this in the comments right now. My energy is rare. That's your affirmation. Say it, type it, own it, because once you know your energy is rare, you'll never hand it out like it's cheap again. Number 4. Mystery that drives them mad. Mystery, my friends, is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. People don't obsess over what they already understand. They obsess over what they cannot figure out. And this is the stage where your silence and your quiet transformation combine into something that drives them mad. Unanswered questions. You stop giving them explanations. You stop giving them closure. You stop feeding their ego with easy answers. And in that empty space, their mind becomes their own worst enemy. Think about it. Before, you probably gave too much away. You explained why you felt hurt. You justified why you reacted. You opened your heart wide, hoping they would finally see your worth. You gave them the whole book when they hadn't even earned the cover. But now, you've closed that door. You've become mysterious. And when someone cannot read you anymore, when they cannot predict your next move, when they cannot figure out what's going on in your head, that's when they spiral. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow." That's exactly what happens here. Your mystery forces them to meet their own shadow. Instead of you explaining things, they're left with their own guilt, their own doubt, their own unfinished sentences replaying in their mind. They wonder, Why did they stop explaining? Why don't I know what's happening? Why do I feel like I lost control? And those questions turn into a loop, one they can't escape. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine you walk into a room where a puzzle is missing pieces. You can see part of the picture, but the most important sections are gone. Would you be able to let it go? No, you'd sit there trying to imagine, trying to guess, trying to fill in the gaps. That's what mystery does to them. You've become the unfinished puzzle in their mind, and because you no longer give them answers, they obsessively try to complete the picture on their own. And the truth is, they never will, because only you hold the missing pieces, and you're no longer handing them over. Now, some of you might ask, but isn't it cruel not to give closure? Isn't it harsh not to explain myself? No, my friends, it's wisdom, because closure is often just another word for control. When you give them all the answers, you hand them power. You make them comfortable with letting you go, but when you hold back, when you stay calm and mysterious, you make them uncomfortable. And obsession always grows in discomfort, not in comfort. Here's the beauty of it. You don't need to put on an act. You don't need to play games or create fake drama. Mystery is natural when you live for yourself, when you stop broadcasting every detail of your emotions, when you stop chasing their approval, when you stop needing to be understood by someone who rejected you. Mystery takes care of itself. Your silence and transformation already created the storm. The mystery is simply the fog that lingers afterward, clouding their vision and leaving them desperate to see through it. Folks, they will replay every conversation, every moment, every word you ever gave them. They'll wonder if they misread you. They'll ask themselves if they underestimated you. They'll sit with the haunting thought, what if I lost the best thing I ever had? That question is the seed of obsession. And because you're no longer answering, because you're no longer available, that seed grows wild in their mind. So hold on to this power. Don't explain yourself. Don't hand them clarity they haven't earned. Let your mystery speak for you, because the less they know, the more they'll chase to find out. And the more they chase, the more they prove to themselves that they're not over you. Write this right now in the comments to claim it. I am the mystery. That's your affirmation. Say it, type it, believe it. Because once you embody that truth, they'll never stop thinking about you. Number 6, the contrast burn. Then versus now. The real sting, my friends, comes not just from your silence, not just from your glow-up, not even from your mystery. It comes from the contrast. The human mind is built to compare. It can't help it. And when they look at you now versus who you were before, that comparison cuts deep. That's why I call it the burn, the contrast burn. It's the pain they feel when they realize the person they thought they could control, the one they dismissed, the one they underestimated, is not the same person standing before them now. Think back to how you were before the silence. You were available, you were open, you were willing to explain yourself 100 times if needed. Maybe you bent over backwards to make them feel secure. Maybe you tried to hold the relationship together with your bare hands. And in their mind, that version of you was weak, predictable, easy to manipulate. They thought that was all you would ever be. So when you went silent, they expected that old version to come crawling back. But instead, they were met with someone different, stronger, sharper, mysterious, scarce. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And that is exactly what's happening to them. The pain of the contrast is waking them up. They thought your silence would break you, but instead, it built you. They thought they'd move on while you stayed the same, but instead, you grew while they stayed stuck. That realization, it burns their pride. Because now they have to face the truth that you didn't need them to transform. You transformed without them. Picture this. Imagine a painting you once ignored hanging on the wall. It looked plain, simple, unremarkable. You never gave it a second glance, but one day the artist adds new layers, new colors, new life to it. Suddenly that same painting commands attention. People stop, stare and marvel at it. And you, the one who dismissed it before, now feel foolish. That's the contrast burn. You are that painting. They saw you in one dimension, but now you've revealed layers they never knew existed, and their regret is the natural response. Why does this matter? Because regret is the soil where obsession grows. When they look at the then version of you, they feel secure. I had that. I could control that. But when they look at the now version, they feel fear. I lost that. I can't reach that anymore. The gap between those two versions is what keeps them awake at night. It's the haunting realization that they misjudged you, and in misjudging you, they lost the rarest thing they'll ever encounter. But let me also speak to you directly. This contrast isn't just for them, it's for you. It shows you your own evolution. It reminds you that you are not defined by who you were in your weakest moments. You are not frozen in the version of yourself that was rejected. You are proof that silence can transform a person into something unrecognizable. And the more you lean into that growth, the more undeniable the contrast becomes. Of course, doubts will creep in. You'll ask yourself, what if they don't see it? What if they don't care? But trust me, my friends, they see it, even if they don't admit it, even if they pretend they're unaffected. The human mind cannot unsee change once it's noticed, and once they see the new you, they can never forget the old you. That comparison will haunt them whether they like it or not. And here's the truth. They can find someone new, they can distract themselves, they can even tell people they've moved on. But every time they see you, or even hear about you, the contrast burns again. It's like touching a scar that hasn't healed. The pain is instant, the memory floods back, and the obsession tightens its grip. Because nothing eats a person alive more than knowing they had the chance to treasure someone, and they let it slip away. So hold steady in this. Don't soften the contrast by going back to old patterns. Don't undo your growth by chasing. Let them feel it. Let them burn. Because in that burn is where regret is born, and in regret is where obsession takes root. Say this with me right now and write it in the comments. I am not who I was. That is your affirmation. Believe it. Own it. Because the moment you accept you've outgrown the old you, they'll have no choice but to see it too. And when they do, their regret will only deepen. Number 7. Indirect signals that pull them in. My friends, obsession is rarely born from direct words. It's not the speeches, it's not the explanations, it's not the endless back and forth that makes someone's mind spiral. It's the little things, the indirect signals, that do the real work. This is where the trick grows legs and starts to walk into their everyday life without you even trying. Because when you've gone silent, when you've transformed, when you've embraced scarcity, you don't need to scream your progress from the rooftops. Your energy does the talking. Your presence, or better said, your selective absence, becomes the loudest message of all. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Think about that for a moment. you've already transformed. And now, without saying a word, you're setting off a reaction in them. Every indirect sign, whether it's a quiet glow-up they notice in a photo, a subtle change in how you carry yourself, or even the way mutual friends talk about you, becomes another spark that lights up their mind. They expected you to shrink, but instead they keep seeing little clues that you've expanded, and those clues are like breadcrumbs that lead them straight back into obsession. Here's the psychology. The human brain fills in gaps with imagination. If you post less, if you share less, if you speak less, they will still try to connect the dots. And the less you give them, the more creative their imagination becomes. That's why subtle, indirect signals are so powerful. They can't pin you down, but they can't ignore you either. You show up in whispers, in shadows, in the spaces in between. That's where obsession takes root. Picture this. You walk into a room, and without saying a word, people sense something different. Your posture, your calm energy, the way you no longer look like someone desperate for attention, it radiates. And trust me, folks, they feel it. Maybe they hear about you through a mutual friend. Yeah, they've been doing really well lately. Maybe they see one subtle change in your appearance that screams growth. Or maybe they notice you're simply not present where you used to be. Each one of these indirect signs hits them harder than 1,000 words ever could, because it tells them the one thing they can't bear to hear. You've moved forward without them. Now, you might ask, but what if I'm not posting anything? What if I'm not showing anything at all? That's the beauty of it, my friends. Even silence is a signal. Even absence makes them question. If they can't see you, they'll wonder what you're doing, who you're with, how you're living. Their mind becomes a projector screen, playing every possible version of you, and every version burns them more. They'll invent stories in their head, and those stories are often more powerful than anything you could have told them directly. This is why restraint is power. The less you try to prove, the more their imagination does the proving for you. The trick works because you are no longer feeding them answers. You're letting them chase shadows, letting them piece together clues, letting them obsess over the fact that you're no longer predictable. And once someone is left to obsess in silence, they cannot escape the loop. But let me remind you, this isn't about games. This isn't about faking a life just to make them jealous. This is about becoming so steady, so calm, so intentional that even the smallest glimpse of you speaks volumes. The subtle shift in your energy is louder than any announcement could ever be. People can feel authenticity. They can sense when you're truly growing. And that energy is magnetic. It draws them back, even if they don't want to admit it. So trust the indirect signals. Trust that your transformation is being noticed, even if no one says it out loud. Trust that whispers travel faster than shouts, because while you're focused on yourself, they're focused on you. And every small, indirect sign of your growth pulls them deeper into the fire of obsession. Write this in the comments right now. My energy speaks. That's your affirmation. Because when you believe that your energy, your silence, and your presence speak louder than words, you'll never feel the need to chase again. Number 8. Why this trick always brings them back. My friends, let us bring this full circle. You've seen how silence set the stage, how transformation shocked their expectations, how scarcity made you rare, and how mystery drove them mad. But here is the part you've been waiting for. Why does this trick always bring them back? Why does the combination of these forces bend the human heart until it circles back to what it once threw away? The answer is simple, yet powerful. It's because this trick is not random. It is rooted in psychology. It touches the deepest instincts of the human mind: scarcity, mystery, contrast, and the unshakable fear of loss. Let's start with scarcity. People don't crave what they can always have. They crave what feels limited, what could slip through their fingers forever. The moment you stopped being available, the moment your attention was no longer free, you became scarce. And scarcity multiplies value. It makes them realize what they ignored was rare all along. They may not say it, they may try to hide it, but inside, their mind is already rewiring. They start to think, what if I can't get them back? What if I let the best slip away? And those thoughts are the roots of obsession. Now think about mystery. Human beings cannot stand not knowing. We replay unfinished conversations, unanswered questions, missing pieces. That's why stories without endings haunt us the most. When you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped giving them closure, you left them with the greatest torture, the unknown. And the unknown doesn't fade away. It grows. It forces their mind to chase what it cannot capture. Mystery is the fog they cannot see through, and it keeps them walking in circles, always back toward you. Then comes contrast. Before silence, they thought they knew you. They thought you would always be the one to explain, to chase, to bend. But after silence, they see a different you, a calmer, stronger, more untouchable you. That gap between who you were and who you are now burns them every time they notice it. And regret always follows that burn. Because nothing cuts deeper than realizing you misjudged someone, that you walked away from them before they became their strongest version. That regret fuels the obsession because they can't undo the comparison. They can't go back to the old you. They can only live with the pain of losing the new one. And finally, the fear of loss. This is the core of it all. Nothing haunts the human heart more than knowing you've lost something irreplaceable. When they see your silence didn't break you, when they see your glow up, when they feel the scarcity, when they face the mystery, when the contrast burns them, fear takes hold. Fear that you're gone forever. Fear that someone else will have what they carelessly rejected. Fear that they'll never be able to undo what they did. That fear is why they always circle back. Because the human spirit can't bear the thought of losing something rare, powerful, and unforgettable. And let me remind you, this obsession isn't temporary. It's not a passing phase. Once these forces take root in their mind, they cannot escape them. Even if they distract themselves, even if they run into the arms of someone else, the echo of you will remain. They'll carry the memory of your silence, the sting of your transformation, the weight of your scarcity, and the torment of your mystery. It will follow them. It will haunt them. And sooner or later, they'll come back, because all roads of regret lead back to the one who held their power. But here's the most important part. This isn't just about them. It's about you. This trick is survival. It's proof that you don't need to chase to be valued, that you don't need to explain to be understood, that you don't need to bend to be loved. You only need to stand, to transform, to hold your ground, and when you do, the world bends toward you. And so, my friends, here's the truth. We've come full circle. What started as silence turned into transformation, scarcity, mystery, and contrast, and together they form the trick that always pulls them back. Remember, rejection wasn't your ending, it was the spark of their regret. Hold this power, live it, and watch how they circle back, unable to escape the obsession. Now, I want you to type it in the comments. I hold the power. Press that like button. Subscribe for more stoic wisdom and share this with someone who needs it. Stay with me. Your story of strength is just beginning.